gonna interview today. We're gonna interview Vicki Noodlebrain.
That's me.
I love that Noodle Brain. And when I Googled that, there's a lot more out there. So I had to make sure that I had, Vicki.
Yeah, it's
Vicki.
with Vicki Nudell.
Yeah, right. That's right. So anyway, so are you ready,
I
everyone?
am ready. I
So
am ready.
we're gonna interview Vicki today, and it's the same questions, but there'll be a different spin. Maybe I'll think of another question I can ask. But the first one, since we all met and through Ann Tucker, and we started all of this because this is what I don't know, the energies just pushed us here, I guess.
Hmm.
Led us here.
Everything just fell into place really, really easily for
It
us.
did. It did.
Yeah.
So, and it's probably because of Anne's angels too, and they're all in connection with ours.
Hmm.
They do everything behind the scenes. Anyway, first question for you will be, how did you discover Anne Tucker?
Well, I don't exactly remember, how I discovered her. I know that when I retired, I needed something in my life. And I remembered I used to really be into metaphysics, like in my 20s and stuff, but I never really got into it. And so I said, I told my husband, I'm going to start getting into this metaphysical stuff, something that interests me. And so with that, comes going onto YouTube and seeing, different people. I was always so impressed with people who actually went onto YouTube and was brave. They actually put themselves out there, and this was like many, many years ago where there wasn't nearly the channels that there are now. And then, my mom ended up passing away, and there was that whole journey
Mhm.
and getting into meditation and seeing signs, from my mom, getting like a past life regression and having my grandmother pop in out of nowhere because we were never close, but she just popped in into my regression. And I felt like I needed to get a Reiki attunement for some unknown reason. I just needed that.
Mhm.
And so I did that. And so then that led me into the whole thing of energy, how we're all energy and, we're all at different vibrations, and the universe is different frequencies of energy. And so I got into energy healing, which led me to reconnective healing with Eric Pearl. So I kind of did that a little bit, but I never really put anything into a business. It was all just kind of for me, and I would, do my friends and my husband and stuff.
Mhm.
And of course, then, there's astrology, which is so fascinating. There's numerology, which is fascinating. Tarot, which is fast. All these things just kind of came in, and I would do dreams. I all of a sudden had this weird dream, and something popped up into YouTube. It's like, get your dreams analyzed. So it's like, okay. And so that was Michael Sheridan. And I actually put a question into a YouTube video. I left a comment with a question, and he actually answered that question on his next video. It's like, when does that ever happen? So that was very exciting for me. So I took his like channeling class, and so then I got this thing about something popped into my head. I was on these different websites at the time, like Van Prague and Lee Harris, and I took his reconnection of some year. And it was about that time that I got the idea during COVID about putting together like an energy healing group. And mainly it was just to connect like my friends, all my different types of friends. And I asked them if they wanted to, do this little group with me. And it was just over text
Yeah.
because we were all just kind of stuck in our homes at that point. And I had a lot of friends who weren't living with anyone. They were just all by themselves.
Oh.
And I got this brilliant idea, which I know wasn't mine, to put together a group and to send out healing to them. And I did that actually. It was for the first 2 weeks, I did it every night. I got people together and they said, sure, I'll do this. What else are they gonna do at 7 o'clock at night? So I actually did it like every night for 2 weeks, and then it went to twice a week and then down to once a week.
Uh,
And then there was a long hiatus where it wasn't really needed anymore, and nobody was really into it. So then after I met the Ann Tucker group from, getting into Ann Tucker and that kind of
well,
thing. So we
how
we
did
got into
how
the Ann
did
Tucker group.
how did you was it through Michael?
Um, yes,
Okay.
yes, because he had interviewed her.
Okay. Okay.
And I thought, and I loved her energy, right? So I got into her group, and all of a sudden it came to me as like, this is a good time to start up that energy group again. And so I did it, and people said yes, which of course, if you have nothing to give and nobody says yes, then you're kind of out on a limb going, I
Yeah.
got something to give and nobody wants it.
Yeah.
But they seem to, so now I have this group that I do once a week. And really it's just sending out an intention with energy and getting us all into a quiet space, having the same intention. And there's something about having a group together, and everybody says this, it's just a small group, but we're all focusing on the same intention. We're all going into silence together. I listen actually to music that brings me joy. So I get into a space of joy and I start sending out this focused energy. And with all of us together in this bubble of an intention and positive energy, it's like shouting into the universe.
Yeah.
So it just kind of hit me that this is like a really powerful thing.
Mhm.
It's like I mean, I didn't even realize the depth of it until I think just recently. Because to me it's just something I put together. But there are deeper implications
Right.
of having people go into an intention, into the silence, into holding love, and just putting it out there. And that's what I do now. I had I had also gone through a QHHT thing where I learned how to do past life regression. That didn't last very long. I did like 5 of them, and it's a 6-hour process,
Yeah.
and I don't have that kind of time.
Oh.
And so then I realized, well, really QHHT is just getting your brain waves into a certain pattern so
Mhm.
that you are susceptible to, like hypnotic suggestion or using your imagination. Right?
Right.
It's really is what it all comes down to is, using your imagination, and where does that take you?
Mhm.
And so I did that, and then after I did that, all of a sudden a sound healing thing came to me. It's like, well, you can get your brain into those brain waves by sound,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So then I started getting into sound healing. And so I actually put together this, which I've only used a few times, but maybe someday it'll come out, where I call it my soul body integration session. And it uses vibration, it uses sound, it uses reconnective healing, it uses affirmations, where it's all kind of inclusive, to where if you get your body to accept the reality, because it's all very practical based, your mind will automatically come along. And so it's like bringing in more of your soul into your body and holding that vibration.
That's perfect. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, so
So,
So
and
that's in my back burner somewhere.
yeah, well, I mean, you've used it recently. I thought you said you'd used it recently on someone.
Oh, I actually haven't used it recently, but
Oh,
I've
oh,
used it.
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, that's something we can add to my website or something whenever you're ready. We could do that. Or also, I was going to say how people could connect with you. I,
Well, if they wanted to email me, because I don't really have a website or anything, or if they wanted to leave a comment, like in my noodle brain, if they read something and they wanted to say something, they left a comment. Um, but I do have an email address, and that's vicky.nudell@gmail.com.
okay, we'll put that
So,
in the
if you wanted to put
comments too.
that in,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that actually is something that is done in person. I did put together a remote kind of energy healing to where it just kind of came to me. It's like, it's a 3-day thing. It's immersive. It includes music. It includes, it's like 15 minutes a day for 3 days in a row,
That's the
which,
one. That's the one
yeah,
I was thinking of.
that's what I have
Okay.
used recently.
Yeah.
And that it gets you into a state of, and it's 3 days in a row. It just builds on the energy that we built up from the day before. And I think that, I don't know if if it has a positive impact yet on people. I suppose it depends on the person. And
Right.
if they allow these to come in.
Right. That's
But
right.
I also have that.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
That reminds me of one that I did a few years ago, 2-minute miracles, where the first 2 minutes of your day, to set up
Mm-hmm.
the day, the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing. So, and a reminder, like, are those in the evening or afternoon or
Oh, well, they're whenever they have the
the
time, because
time? Okay.
I'm retired,
Right?
but I think it's best in the early evening, and then I will always send out like a morning song, because that
Oh,
starts your day out, like you were
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Right. That's
So,
right.
it's to get you into that receiving mode in the evening, to set you off for a wonderful night's sleep, and then to get you waking up happy and understanding that your your vibration is everything.
Right.
It's where you keep your focus. You know, like everyone says, whatever you focus on gets your energy.
Hmm.
And so just be sure what you're focusing on.
That's right. That's right.
And sometimes it's a mental thing where you have to bring yourself to that. It's like getting away from the news. It's getting away from politics. It's putting your focus somewhere else. You can pay attention, like I know what's happening, but I prefer not to stay there.
Right.
I
Right.
prefer to get out of that space and go into a different space
If you
and keep myself there.
Right, that's right. And they say, to watch politics with a different mind, and I haven't been able to figure out how to do that yet. So I just kind of, I mean, I know it's a part of what's happening, and
It's it's
everything's
like a
happening for a
novel.
reason. Hmm.
It's like I think of it as a novel. Like think of it as a spy novel. Like we're in the last chapter. I am curious to see where it ends up. And
Right,
something's going to happen. I don't know what, and I don't know when, but something's going to happen to change everything. And that's an exciting thing to think about.
it is. And if you,
Because with the Pluto in Aquarius, with all the astrology, there is a new age on the horizon. We are in it now. It is beginning now,
Mhm.
and it's only going to accelerate.
Right, and which way do you want it to accelerate? I
Hmm.
want it to accelerate in love and
Hmm.
unity. And we're of like mind with that too,
Yes.
for sure. So yeah. So you explained everything. I only asked you one question and you went through
Well,
all of them.
I had it all written down. I was ready
Oh,
for you.
okay. You already know the questions. That's right. That's right. Or how did we meet though? You didn't say how we met.
Well,
But
I think at we met at one of the luncheons that Catherine had put together. I
okay.
think.
No,
I think that's where we met. I know
that's
you
not
have a different.
that's not what I remember. Isn't that
I
funny? That's so funny. I remember meeting you at lunch, but it was the lunch in Carefree, Arizona before we went
But
and
see, I knew you before then.
oh, I know
You were
that.
at a different, we were at that luncheon, and I knew you because you gave me a card. And I thought, oh, wow, she's got business
I
cards.
know her. Well, oh yeah. So when you saw me at the next luncheon, I see what you're saying. Okay. So yes, that's when we actually started talking
Hmm.
seriously. And although I did ask you when we were in Carefree, what energy work do you do? I don't know how I knew that you did. But that was my first question to you. And you said, oh, and you started telling me about it. And I
Well,
thought, well, I guess everybody does. And then the next person I asked that, they were like, well, no, I don't do any of that. So maybe my guides told me to ask you that.
okay. Yeah, so reconnective healing, to
Yes.
me, it was Reiki is very structured. Like you have to ask the Reiki god, or I read a book,
Uh,
but I never really took, to become a Reiki master or anything like that. But reconnective healing it fit my style more. It's more, I want to say loosey goosey. You just kind of, to me, you take the energies, you give them intention, and you focus them.
that's,
And
yeah, yeah,
it, and then you just use your hands. And to me, I kind of, it's all a symphony because I, I have music in my background. We
right,
both have music in our background. And to me, it's like conducting a symphony almost, and weaving everybody's frequency into a beautiful pattern.
right. That's
And
good.
reconnective healing itself was Eric Pearl was the reconnection. It was such a fun book. He was very funny. And it was about reconnecting strings and reconnecting strands, which is all about DNA reparation is pretty much what my intuitive thing is. Like, it can repair your DNA.
Right.
It reconnects those strings so that it becomes a more whole version of yourself.
Hmm.
And
And
I think when you add it to different things, it all, of course, he says, don't use it with anything else. It is in and of itself its own modality, which it is. But I also think there's something about the body that needs to be prepped also, because if the body is prepped, like with the vibration and the sound, and you get your mind into a certain frequency, it all just helps it to be incorporated into the body and into the cells.
absolutely, absolutely. It sounds shamanic. You're using more than just Reiki. I mean, not that Reiki is just anything.
No,
I don't
there.
mean it that way. Reiki is very powerful. The first Reiki
Mhm.
I had second Reiki I had was the Kundalini energy started. So it is powerful, but yeah.
And that is one thing that I noticed, that when I was doing it, when I was first beginning to do this, it was very shamanic, and it brought in various thoughts that I've done this before.
Oh, that
So
is
I'm
cool.
sure I was a shaman at 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5 points in my lives.
I think we were together. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That is so cool. What a wonderful journey. Wow. Wow. I can't even, you went through a lot. That's a lot of
Well,
things you did there. Yeah.
well, when you have nothing but time and interests and excitement,
Right.
you go into different things. It's like, I know numbers, I know astrology, I
Yeah.
know tarot.
Well, there you go. Well,
Yeah.
and it's good to open yourself to all of it,
Hmm.
and because you're the only one on earth who can bring it through and work it the way that you do. So that is so cool. Thank you so much for all the answers. And there's more I want to ask.
Okay.
The first one was you said that you sent a question, if it's not too personal,
Oh.
the question to Michael, and he answered in the next podcast.
Well, my dream was that I was in an apartment building, which, I've lived in apartments, but not currently. And a lioness walked in. And I wasn't scared of the lioness. But we were looking at each other, kind of, we're just looking at each other, right? And we walked into a big bathroom, and it was an all white bathroom. And she just came into that bathroom and just laid down. And I thought that was very interesting. So I didn't know what it meant. And I guess when you dream of lions, it means that you are a spiritual leader of some sort.
Mhm.
And that's where it all, and he answered it. It's like, oh, I did not know that. How interesting is that?
Yeah.
And so, and then what does that mean? What does that mean? How does one spiritually lead something? And now, like with my energy group and that kind of stuff, it's like, okay, I will take that.
Right. And it happened in a natural progression. It wasn't like you just had the dream and the next day you were
Oh,
here.
no, 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 no.
Yeah. So, and I love dreams like that. I
Hmm.
should journal my dreams more, but I don't. But well, what the bathroom part maybe is obvious.
The bathroom is all about, and it was in all white. So I dealt too much in perfectionism.
Uh,
I needed to incorporate more of that shadow side of me, which I didn't, kind of know much at the time about.
mhm.
But but I actually had a dream where I incorporated my inner child. It's like I had this dream. So once I got into, him, and I took his dream summit class, and he still has those things going on, but I haven't done it for a long time. But every now and then I will have a dream. And every time I can remember just a portion of my dream, I'll write it down. So I get it out. And a lot of times when you write down your dreams and you go and you revisit them, it means more to you. It will strike a different chord. It's like, oh, well, maybe that means that. Oh, well, maybe that means that. So, um,
Or you can see, oh, that's why I had that dream because this happened.
mhm.
Yeah, that's I have had dreams of lions myself. Well, the big one I had was last, I don't know, August when the lion energy happened.
Uh-huh.
When it always that portal is open, I guess.
Right. Lionsgate,
But
8-8.
there you go. That was it. Yeah,
And
and
it was a big one because it was 888.
exactly, and it was
Yes.
a big one. And I had the lion too, but I saw it on the Sphinx.
Ah.
When I woke up, I was like, there's no lion on the Sphinx. And now I looked into that a little more, and there used to be a lion on the Sphinx.
Hmm.
If you see the aerial view, you can see how big the lion is, and the Sphinx head now is just teeny weeny compared to
Uh-huh.
so anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt that, but
Well, no, no, no. It was just all about realizing that you don't have to be perfect. No one's perfect. You never can be. And you have to incorporate the imperfections and love those just as much.
that's right, exactly. That's right. Well, you are perfect, but you're not.
Right. You're perfect in your imperfections.
I like that. That was so good. I love that. And then the other question I was going to ask is when you said you were doing the what was it? The
Reconnective healing.
reconnective. I wonder where that name, what that name means, first of all, and then what, when you were doing the training, you said it brought things through. I was just wondering if it was dreams or ancestors or entities or just words or what.
No, just words. That's how I kind of work. I will occasionally I'll hear something like when I just wake up, there'll be some random phrase that comes in. And and I didn't realize that, that is like clairaudient.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes songs will all of a sudden I'll hear a song and a certain thing will just pop out. Like the very first song that I remember was a Crosby, Stills and Nash song, because I like oldies. I'm old. I like my oldies, and it was from Julie Blue Eyes, and the phrase that popped out was, "Do not let the past remind you of who you are not now,"
Oh,
which means don't get stuck in the past. Don't get stuck in who you were, because you could be somebody totally different.
right.
And that was kind of like, maybe I'm going to just turn into somebody different someday. And I think one of the dreams that I had was there was a child outside of my door. And I think I was waiting for some sort of paperwork to come through. And it came through. I opened up the door. The child ran into my house, jumped on my bed, got naked, and started to hug me.
Aw,
So it was like very emotional. It's like, so my inner child has been wanting to be incorporated in me for so long. And my inner child, in my intuition, it's I don't express myself. I'm afraid to talk.
mm-hmm.
And I didn't ever think that I had anything worthwhile to say. Nobody would want to hear me. That's what, you're taught to be quiet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't bother people. That's my mom. It's like, don't bother people. Don't bother people.
Well, she was
And
taught that too, and
yes,
mom and
yes,
her mom, yeah.
yes. And I think with the incorporation of my inner child, that's when it's like, oh, I can do a podcast. I can talk.